never planned to fall in love with him. The town of Ashland, Oregon, had always been too small for great secret loves. Or at least, that's what I thought. It was early autumn. The trees downtown were already dressing in gold and red, and the air carried that delicious scent of burning wood from the fireplaces. I worked part-time as an assistant at an antique store while trying to finish my degree in literature. My life was predictable, almost gray. It was on an ordinary Friday that everything changed. The bookstore was at the end of Main Street, between a coffee shop called Brewed Awakening and a vintage hat store. Willow's Books was small, cozy, with colorful stained glass windows and cushioned chairs scattered around. The sound of little bells at the door announced each new arrival, and the smell inside was of strong coffee and old books, a combination that seemed to cradle the heart. I was there to pick up a used copy of The Great Gatsby for a college project. And that's where I saw him for the first time. He was standing, flipping through a blue-covered book, completely immersed in reading. He wore faded jeans, worn boots, and a brown jacket. His light brown hair was slightly messy, as if the wind had played with it all the way there. When he looked up and saw me, he smiled, an open, genuine smile that warmed even the coldest corners of my chest. "Looking for something special?" he asked, with a soft accent typical of someone born and raised around there. I smiled back, a little awkwardly. "Actually, I'm hunting for Fitzgerald." He laughed, closing the book in his hands. "A man ahead of his time," he said, as if sharing a secret. And I fell a little bit in love right there. His name was Ben Carter. He was 27, a few years older than me. He was an assistant professor at Southern Oregon University, taught art history, and wrote columns for the local newspaper in his spare time. Our first meeting wasn't planned. Neither was the second, or the third. It just happened. Every time I went to the bookstore, he was there. Sometimes reading, sometimes chatting with the owner, Mrs. Willow, a sweet lady who was passionate about Jane Austen and poetry. We started talking casually about books, old movies, imaginary travels, the way he spoke about small things, a Hopper painting, a Simon and Garfunkel song, the smell of rain hitting the windows, made me want to live all those things with him. But there was something he never said, something I sensed, but preferred to ignore. One cold afternoon in October, sitting in one of the armchairs at Willow's Books, laughing at some silly thing I can't even remember, he finally spoke about her. "My fiancée, Claire, loves this kind of book," he said, pointing to an edition of Pride and Prejudice. My whole world trembled. Fiancé. The impact of the word was like a bucket of ice water. My smile froze, but I forced a response. "She has good taste," I said. My voice caught in my throat. He smiled absent-mindedly, unaware of the storm he had caused inside me. After that, I tried to stay away. I swear I tried. I stayed away from the bookstore for days. I avoided Main Street altogether. I buried myself in my studies, in work at the store, in crowded cafes and boring TV shows. But it was useless. The memory of him, the laughter, the eyes that seemed to read thoughts, haunted me around every corner. And sooner or later, I always came back. Like a moth that can't resist the light that will burn it. There were moments when it seemed like he felt it too. Small gestures, lingering silences. Once our fingers touched reaching for the same book, and he didn't pull away immediately. Another time, walking under the Christmas lights starting to be hung along the shops, he said softly, "Sometimes I wonder what things would be like if they were different." I lost my breath, but he said nothing more, and I didn't have the courage to ask what he meant. Winter arrived, covering Ashland in a fine layer of snow. The bookstore became even more magical, like something out of a postcard. A lit fireplace, golden lights twinkling in the windows, soft piano music in the background. Ben kept coming, and so did I. With each meeting, I broke a little more. The wedding was set for spring. I heard it from Mrs. Willow one February afternoon when the snow seemed never ending. "They're getting married in the rose garden at Lithia Park. It's going to be beautiful," she said, smiling. Beautiful. Such a cruel word sometimes. The invitation came a week later, an ivory envelope with golden letters spelling out Claire and Ben. I should have declined. I should have ignored it, but I couldn't. I went. The rose garden was perfect that May afternoon. The flowers exploded in vivid colors. The sweet scent hung in the air. The sky was an almost surreal blue. Claire was beautiful. White lace dress, hair pinned up in delicate braids. Ben wore a light gray suit, nervous and smiling. When he looked at me through the crowd, our eyes met. There was a second, just 1 second, where everything went silent. It was just the two of us. But then the music resumed. And he turned to her and said, "I do." I didn't cry, not in front of everyone. Today, years later, I still sometimes go back to Ashland. I have coffee at Brewed Awakening. I walk down Main Street. The bookstore is still there. But Ben is not. I heard he and Claire moved to Portland, opened a small art gallery. Sometimes I wonder if, in some parallel universe, we would have had the courage to try. But in this life, our story was made of silences, and some things are more beautiful that way, kept, untouched, eternal. Have you ever loved someone who could never be yours? Share with me in the comments.